Welcome to Petros Family Wealth. Today we're going to cover some basic estate planning documents that you should consider for you and your family. Let's go ahead and dive in. So what we're going to do today is cover when we should create or update our estate plan, what are some of the basic documents in an estate plan, some of the tough questions that we should ask ourselves before getting into the estate planning process, and what are the typical costs and implementation that you can incorporate. If you feel that this information is very helpful, please go ahead, like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. So the first thing is, when should we create an estate plan? Typically, there's 3 time periods where it makes sense to have an estate plan updated or created. Typically, the first time that an estate plan would be incorporated is when you first have kids or when you're first married, either or. The second time is if your kids are older than the age of majority, which is either between 18 and 21, then they're more of an adult. And then the third time is when grandkids come around. So those are typically the 3 main stages of most people's lives, but life gets messy and many times can need to be updated or revisited more often than that. But those are the 3 major milestones to look at and review your current estate plan. So what are the basic estate planning documents? So the first one is a will. And a will basically states, here's how I want my assets to be divvied out after my passing or me and my spouse's passing. The second is what's called a financial power attorney. And what this decides or lays out is, should I not be capable of making financial decisions for myself, who do I want to have in charge of those financial assets? This might be a situation where you're in a car accident or some sort of catastrophic event. You might be in a hospital, not able to make those decisions. And also later on in life, if we were to be inflicted with dementia or Alzheimer's and may not be able to make those financial decisions by ourselves, we can give somebody else the financial power attorney to make those financial decisions. The third document is what's called a healthcare directive. This is very similar to the financial end of things. If I'm not able to make a health decision for myself, who would I want to make those decisions for me? This healthcare directive typically is, who do you want to make those medical decisions for you? Sometimes it's a spouse, sometimes it's children, and there are other services out there, private services, where if your kids aren't around or no spouse available, that they would be able to take on that role as a healthcare power attorney or healthcare agent. Now, some of the tough questions to ask, specifically if you do have children, and this would be in regards to your will. 2 tough questions to ask are, who do I want to have take care of my children? That would be considered what's called a guardian. And the second tough question is, who do I want to have in charge of my financial assets for the benefit of my children after we're gone? 2 very tough questions to ask. And many times those 2 people either take care of day to day or financially take care of my kids' assets. Many times those can be 2 different people. That may not always be the case, but generally it's wise to consider the possibility of having 2 separate people in order to, 1, fully take advantage of the skill set and characteristics of a great father and mother to your children if you were to pass away. But then second, that may not be the same skill set of managing money for your children. And then third, it does reduce the possibility of commingling of assets. If the guardian is in a tough pressure, especially if they have their own kids and your kids, it may put them in a financial strain, and it might be an easy access to some of those funds. So a lot of times those can be separate, and please use your advisor or your attorney to help navigate those tough questions, but definitely start those questions early so that you can identify the right fit. Hopefully that never happens, but I always share those as some of the tough questions to look at beforehand. Another question is, well, what about when should I have a revocable trust versus a will? Some of the situations that we find where we lean towards a revocable trust will be, 1, we have complex or illiquid assets. So I might own a business, for example, and although I want the wealth to go to my wife or my kids, they may not be the best suited to keep running that business while I'm gone. So I might have a trust where my wife is in charge, but then she can delegate those responsibilities and keep the business operational. Same thing if you have a number of physical real estate assets. It's much easier to transition that wealth through a revocable trust than it is through a probate process, which might be a little more difficult. The other consideration when we talk about complex, especially for Minnesota, is a family cabin. Family cabins are full of sentimental and family values and memories. And many times, especially if there's multiple siblings, you might have one or two siblings that want to keep the cabin, and then others that do not want to keep the cabin. If you have a revocable trust, you can lay out and design how that decision is made. For example, if you have 4 kiddos, then 2 of them want to keep the property and the other 2 do not. You can lay out in your trust for the folks that do want to keep the property, they must pay market rate for the other half, and so that they can continue on with the family cabin. If they are not capable of financially handling and buying out the other 2, then the cabin must be sold. That would mitigate a significant amount of family dynamic conflicts, to say the least, laying that out, especially for something that's as sentimental as a family cabin. The other reason why someone might consider a revocable trust is if they're over the Minnesota estate tax limit, which is currently, as of 2023, $3 million. And so if you have home life insurance is inherently income tax free, but it's not inherently estate tax free. So between home, life insurance, IRAs, other assets, if you're close to in the $2.5 million range, very wise to consider a revocable trust so that you can essentially double that estate tax limit by having you and your spouse divvy up assets and preserve $3 million per spouse, creating a $6 million estate tax limit. As far as typical costs go, there's a couple different ways to do it. Just on the basic level, I am going to have some links as far as a financial power attorney through the Minnesota Attorney General website, and I am going to provide a link to a Honoring Choices, which is a nonprofit. Many of the hospitals here in Minnesota have a short form available for patients, and I'm just going to include that link as an example, the short form, to help move things along in a cost-effective way. But at times, especially if there's complex assets or we're not able to fully secure things, sometimes it definitely does make sense to engage with an attorney, particularly for that revocable trust situation. And what we find is for a basic estate plan, that could cost anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000 for a will, power attorney, and healthcare directive. For a revocable trust, that gets up to the higher range in that $3,000 to $10,000 range. Now, if you're a newlywed and just have a first kiddo, for example, one of the most inexpensive ways to get the basic estate planning documents done, that will, healthcare, power attorney, is to actually look at your employer benefits and see if they have a legal plan available. Many times those legal plans allow for a free healthcare directive, power attorney, and will, and typically only cost between $15 and $25 a month. So effectively, you can get that basic estate plan down, and it would only cost you for, if you paid for it for the whole year, somewhere between that $200 and $300 range, which can be a little less expensive than working with a traditional attorney. And then just don't forget, turn off that legal plan if there's no other legal items up on the horizon. That would be an inexpensive way to get something basic down so you can continue on growing your wealth over time. So hopefully that's helpful. If you found that helpful, and if you have any questions or things you want me to help explain a little bit more further, please go ahead and make those comments below. Happy to build more of these content and answers here for you as you continue your financial journey. Thanks so much.